My God-given right. What is your God-given right?
That's Andy's notion about what his father once told him. Like, you know, the father had some dreams of becoming a saxophone player, maybe, but because he was born around 44, well, there were no steps to be taken in that direction. It was rebuilding the country after the war and stuff, and so for him there was no option to become saxophone player or whatever, so he had an understanding for Andy's dream to try something with music. And so that's actually what he said to him back then, you know, if you want to do something with music, just try for a few years or whatever comes out of it, you know, it's your God-given right to try this, to do this, and that's where it comes from. A bit of both. It's, you know, on one hand it's getting harder to surpass yourself what you are doing. Like if I'm doing something like Burning Sun, it's like kind of hard, you know, to get even higher, you know, on something like that. And, you know, eventually you have good ideas and then you succeed in doing so. I mean, I'm proud of the stuff I've done here on this record because it goes beyond, you know, it's somehow different, different approach or whatever. If you wanted to compare these tracks, they are different from each other. It's hard to surpass yourself, but sometimes you succeed in doing that. That is not so easy. But basically, I think if you're in a successful situation, then it's coming easier. You know, there's other people who go like, oh, you know, now I'm successful and I'm so famous, you know, I think I gotta get drunk and not do anything anymore. And then when it comes to the next record, it means like, oh shit, you know, I forgot to come up with new material. Oh, and then you do a bad record, right? Yeah, but very rarely. I mean, that's like the approach I take, right? So that doesn't happen, you know. And, you know, I got everything recorded on record so I can, you know, compare. I think I'm not very guilty of repeating things in the riff, except for the diddle-diddle-diddle, which is in Burning Sun and which is also in Battles 1, you know. But it's slightly different. And I was well aware of that, but I said, no, what the fuck, I don't care, I want this riff to be like this. And then it's a continuation of a culture from before, so you have it kind of as a historical link from one track to the other track. So that's the Burning Sun is where I stopped, and Battles 1 kind of is where I continue, right? And I'm ready to take the criticism for that, but it was a little bit intended, On the other hand, you can say like you're lazy, you know, you could have done it a lot better and just left that out, you know, and came up with a different idea. But no, I thought there was that link, you know, and you know, being aware of this, I had decided that I can also afford it, because from what I know from the history of other bands or whatever, there were more blunt and blander examples of what was done, like, oh man, that's the same fucking riff he did before, you know. And the Battles 1 is a lot different from the Burning Sun riff. It's just that historical little bridge. But I thought, what the fuck. Well, this time we have an extremely expensive round warm sound, because his intention was to go 80s production-wise and sound-wise. If you want to do heavy metal in the form that we are doing it just in the digital domain, it may happen to you that it's all kind of like overly crispy and too high, and that's the usual type of recording that you get nowadays. And you know, as we are from the 70s and 80s, we sure know the difference, and you may accept it the way it usually is with everything, but you can also try to improve, and that's what Charlie wanted. He said, you know, if you want to have the 80s sound, you got to go back and get some equipment, and he put that in there, in a few loops and whatever, where it's connected to other devices to achieve the sound that's there.
The track Lost in America, what's that about?
That's about a cancelled flight on that airport in Mexico City, I think. We had to wait 17 hours because they announced a flight show on the airport, you know. But the thing was, there were like thousands of passengers already present, you know, and they for sure knew before that the flight show would take place, you know. They could have told everyone, right? And so there were like thousands of people waiting 17 hours for a possible next flight that would take place later, eventually. And first of all, we had to think of the next show in Sao Paulo. And we weren't quite sure if we could get there in time, and that would have been kind of super sad. And then you weren't sure, and then you had to wait, and then the crew came, and then we entered the plane, and I fell asleep on the plane. But what happened while I was asleep? The pilot turned the plane around because they weren't sure with their instruments, they weren't working properly. And he said, we can't get any higher than what we are, and you may have seen that. That's kind of strange. You still see the ground, and this is because our instruments here are not displaying or functioning properly. And to tell you the truth, we'd rather go back to where we came from, you know, and have that checked. And we don't know really where we are. We are lost in America.
Wow.
That's what he said. And so Andy just picked that thing for that song. And well, we went back, and it was another 2.5 hours, and till the next flight finally went to Sao Paulo. When we arrived in Sao Paulo, nobody had time to sleep or whatever except for him and me. We were driven to the hotel by the police.
Wow.
You know, with like la la.
Yeah.
And so we had like 2.5 hours of sleep because I didn't have much with all the interruptions and everything, and I felt kind of really weak. And I thought having 2.5 hours and maybe like a shower or something would be really, really good. So we did that. And we were doing the show. It was a great show with Sao Paulo fans and everything. It was amazing, but it was a bit like in a dream. It was kind of surreal. I wasn't really there, but I was so glad that the show took place and everything. Everybody was. I'm of the opinion that we've already put so much energy into the Unarmed project back then for the 25th anniversary, and I'm not really so willing, you know, to lose resources or energy big time on these festivities every 5 years or whatever. You know, I'm more interested in proceeding with regular albums. You know, we usually do albums in a 2-year term,
right,
more or less. And so, you know, you quickly come to the 35th or whatever, or the 34th, and that's an uneven number. They just catch us now with this album because it's the 30th, right? No, not really. Because if I wanted to, I would have to say, okay, the Castle Donington, but all that madness with Keeper 1, Keeper 2, where you don't know how to rate which one higher, and you know, coming to Japan, coming to the Philips Festival in Brazil for the first time, Andy Darius joining the band. I mean, what a feast that was, after all the frustration and not knowing what would be going on with the band and whatever. And I rate that as a high point. And when, like for instance, Danny joined the band, you know, and we got these 10 years, and we found Herr Gerstner as a guitarist then, you know, to complete the lineup and everything. Those are good happenings, I think. What else? God, when they gave us the gold records for Germany, or the platinum one for Korea and stuff. And let's not talk about the desperate things, you know. I was just referring to, wanted to use the term desperate before, you know, when you were desperately looking for a new guitarist or drummer or singer or whatever, you know. After that got solved and working out great, you know, then that's positive. Cool. It's like a positive nuclear bomb put on you, going like, oh, fine. You have a chance to do something again. Instead of, you know, sitting in the corner, you know, grieving about things, going, what we're gonna do, you know, that's not very enjoyable.
No. Cool. Thanks so much. Excellent talk to you.